Welcome in. It's week 11. This is the Fantasy Football Playmakers podcast. I am one of your hosts, Jeremy Poplars, who you can find on Twitter at PopesFFH, and joined, as always, by my co-host, Ryan Mackey, who you can find on Twitter at Mackey_FFB. Ryan, week 11 is here. The Bills finally learned how to play football. They looked good.
They did.
Mike White is no longer a thing.
I think he still feels like he should be the 101.
I think he learned what a top caliber defense looks like. I don't know. I'm surprised he looked so bad. I mean, we didn't really get to see him in a whole game against the Colts, who have a decent defense, but he looked really bad.
Yep.
I mean, I know the Bills defense statistically has been good all year, but he looked really bad.
Really bad.
So,
and I feel like it made the Jets' decision when Wilson gets healthy a little bit easier.
Mm-hmm. I think so. I mean, we still got some fantasy production, you know. Corey Davis had a solid day. Michael Carter had a solid day. That's about it.
Yeah, I was glad that Michael Carter got in.
Garbage time touchdown.
Yeah, that garbage time touchdown was nice for fans starting in a lot of places that I needed to start him in. So it was nice to get that extra added bonus at the very end there.
Definitely was. I was almost right. Sunday I said I thought the Lions were going to beat the Steelers. Close. It's close. Yet again. It's coming. They're going to get that win.
I mean, kind of, right?
Kind of.
I mean, they have to eventually,
I thought they were going to get them. You know, the Steelers tried to let them win. They just couldn't do it. DeAndre Swift, not effort.
That game is so sloppy.
And you have two rushing touchdowns from Jameer Jefferson and some guy that was a preseason stud that I can't pronounce his name. Meanwhile, DeAndre Swift, touchdown-less. Antonio Gibson found the end zone twice.
Yeah.
Is he back, Ryan?
I mean, he looked good in the game.
He did.
Brief moments of that game that I saw, he looked good. I don't know if he's back yet. I think they have another tough matchup this week. But if he gets through playing well in this matchup coming up, I would say yes, he is back. I can't think off the top of my head who exactly they play.
Carolina.
Yeah, and they've been pretty solid. So defensively, anyways. So if he can put up a similar performance in terms of touchdowns, I'd say he's back, but he's still only average less than 3 yards a carry. So, I mean, it was just the touchdowns that saved him, but that's what you're looking for in league. So, for fantasy, it was great.
I had my heart broken on another non-touchdown penalty callback. Javonte almost found the end zone.
Yep.
Watched him run in, and I was like, need those points. Incumbent flag.
Yep. As soon as I saw the flag pop up on the bottom of the screen, I was like, oh.
Yep. Holding. Coming back.
Yep. Knew it. As soon as the flag popped up, I was like, oh, yep, that's no longer a touchdown.
The 49ers. Maybe the Rams aren't as good as we thought. Or maybe it's just the 49ers have their number.
Divisional game. They always
heard them
tough. So
on the broadcast, I think that's the 5th straight win for the 49ers against the Rams, which was a surprising stat. They said, I think if I heard it correctly, I should have looked it up before coming on here and blurting that to the world. But I thought I heard them say that the 49ers have beat the Rams the last 4 times, so the win last night would have been 5 in a row. If you want to check me. Well,
I mean,
nothing.
Kyle Shanahan might have McVay's number, or he just knows how to attack that team.
They ran the same play like all game.
That first drive that they had, they ran that same play.
Then they continued to run it.
I counted 4 times that they ran.
Literally just ran like a zone run scheme to 2 different sides with different blocking schemes. It was, I don't know. If you're Elijah Mitchell owner, it's nice. Now I guess a Jeff Wilson owner, seeing as Elijah Mitchell has an injury, but
yeah, Jeff Wilson saw 10 carries. Could be at least flex viable moving forward.
How about the Seahawks? First time they've been blanked under Russell Wilson.
That is a surprising stat. When I heard that, I was like, I was kind of shocked. I was shocked, but I wasn't shocked at the same time. Just knowing that in he's year 7, 8 now.
That's a good question.
Something like that. In there. 7 or 8 years of him being in the NFL and playing for the Seattle Seahawks, and they've never been blanked with him as a starter.
Yeah. He missed his first games this year too. Big year in the wrong direction for Russell Wilson.
Yeah. I expect things to be better though. Moving forward, I'm not too worried about him offensively.
Well,
and he did come out and say that finger wasn't the problem, but
it was probably bothering him.
It was definitely a problem. It was some form of a problem to him. He just won't. He's too proud to admit that.
The Packers looked good though, defensively, offensively. They looked good with Rodgers back.
Tell you what, I'm excited for playoff football. I think the playoffs this year are going to be insane in terms of drama and just talent on the field. I feel like so many teams are so good, and it's just.
I feel like it's
be fun.
Is it so many teams are so good, or so many teams are just meh? Like they're all good, but I just feel like there isn't an elite team like we thought there was going to be. Like for the longest time, like we'll say like the Patriots, years past. Like you'd come in and you knew that they were like the benchmark. Where this year we came in, we thought the Bills were going to be the benchmark. We thought the Chiefs are benchmark type teams. And both those teams have had their struggles. I mean, you see the Rams, who we thought were going to be a shoo-in for the Super Bowl, losing games that they shouldn't be losing. I mean, it's a divisional game, like you had said. But still, they're losing to teams that you would think they should be beating as a pure Super Bowl contender. So I just feel like just more teams. I just don't think that there's a big divide in the talent anymore. I think more teams are closer. I think that gap's really tight. And, I mean, you saw Tampa Bay, another team that we thought was pretty well of a juggernaut. I mean, Washington handled them, and Washington's been meh all year. So, I agree. Yep. I'm just saying, I feel like I don't know if these teams are actually, like, super good. I feel like it's just kind of like everybody's kind of closed the gap, and I think that it's going to make for good games like it is all year. I'm fine with seeing some teams lose games. I don't need to see a regular season with a team that goes, I mean, it's cool, but like a team that goes 16-0, like I don't care. I'd rather see these teams struggle a little and like the games be more competitive all year instead of going through what everybody thought would be easy weeks and you know what I mean, and just having like cakewalk schedules. Like I'd rather the teams be closer. I think it makes it a little better.
Yeah, my thing is though is like even with the Rams, the Niners are finally getting healthy. They're finally getting to where they want to be. I don't think they have everybody back, especially defensively, but I feel like their replacement defensive players are starting to find their stride and their offense is getting healthy and looking better. So I like I said, divisional game. So the Rams, I feel like the Rams are still, I mean, they're still right up there with the best teams in the NFC. But then if you look at the NFC, you got Arizona that's not healthy. You got Green Bay who's playing better. Tampa still. It just seems like there's multiple teams that it's just going to be a slugfest to get out of the NFC. And then the AFC, if the Chiefs stay or start getting hot now that they had their big week, and the Bills had their big week if they get their stuff together consistently. So got the Browns, if when they get healthy, they're tough when they're fully healthy. I mean, it's just a lot of solid teams, and it should make for really, really fun playoff games when it comes that time.
I like it. I can agree. One person who will not have a solid playoff, at least at the moment, is newly released Le'Veon Bell.
How dare you?
Just saying, he ain't gonna have that much fun. I mean, he's got millions, so what's sure he wants to be playing football though. Interesting. I don't know. Think it brings anything for Tyson Williams? Think he gets an opportunity again, or do you think they're just ready to roll with Deante Foreman?
I honestly think they just seen enough from Freeman to be comfortable with it, and it lets me know that, at least to me, I take it as that Murray's probably back this week, or else they probably wouldn't have released him if they didn't think he'd be back. So probably going to see the typical majority of the shares going, or majority of the carries going to guys like Murray and Freeman, and then Tyson might not be a healthy scratch anymore, but I just don't expect him to be much of anything moving forward without an injury to one of those two guys.
I like it. Speaking of injuries, it's that time. I think we got a pretty short list. It was a pretty healthy week. Some bigger names though. Start with Dallas Goedert, concussion. I'm sure he'll probably play this week. Usually they can clear as long as he has no setbacks, but usually concussion protocol, he should be good to go this week. Definitely something to monitor though. Aaron Jones, MCL sprain. I believe he's had a similar injury in the past. I think the timetable they put on it so far is a week or two. So we're going to see a full workload of A.J. Dillon. Ryan, did you happen to look up who their backup's going to be? Colin Hill's out on IR with the knee injury.
I did, but I can't remember his name because I didn't write it down. I did look at it, though. It's Patrick Taylor.
So
Patrick Taylor.
The question comes, do we think is it going to be A.J. Dillon, full horse load, or do we think a guy like you said, Patrick Taylor, gets any touches that are viable for us to keep an eye out on?
I would expect it to be mostly Dillon. He had 21 attempts last week. Patrick Taylor only saw 2 rushes. I can't remember how late in the game it was that Aaron Jones got hurt, but I don't think it was too awfully late, and they gave the most of the work to Dillon. Granted, maybe they didn't expect to have. I mean, obviously, you don't expect that to happen. You don't expect injuries to happen, so they might not have got Patrick Taylor just ready to play, and they might not have trusted him. So he's obviously going to see a little bit more work because they're going to need him to see a little bit more work. But I expect it to be like 95% A.J. Dillon.
I like it. So if you're an A.J. Dillon owner, big weeks incoming.
And the Packers are on a bye after this week, so you're probably only going to get a full workload from Dillon likely just this week. But it's definitely something to keep an eye on after the bye.
I think that's tough too, because like they say 1 to 2 weeks, but he might slip into that 3.
Oh yeah,
you might get 2 games out of A.J. Dillon, maybe.
But I don't know if you saw what happened, like if you saw the play where that occurred, but I was watching the game, like I was sitting here I think I was looking at my lineups from just seeing how my teams were doing. And I was actually talking to my fiance. She was sitting like next to me, and I was watching the play, and she was in the middle of the conversation, and my face just did like that gross, like that, ugh, because it just, and she was like, "Am I boring you?" And I'm like, I'm sorry, but that was so bad looking when they showed it in slow motion. So I'm hoping that it's just 1 to 2 week thing for him. But the way it looked initially was horrible. Like it looked really bad initially.
I just feel like if they're Super Bowl hopes, which they have, then you might see him sit 3-4 weeks, just to make sure. I mean, 4 seems extreme if they put a 1 to 2 week timetable on it, but I could see him sitting 3, just to make sure that he's all good to go for a playoff push. If Dillon's playing well, if he plays well next week, I could see that.
Yeah, Dillon's fully capable by the looks of it. So you're right. They very well could just say all right, you're not coming back until you're completely 100% no soreness, no nothing, and then
Yeah, especially with the contract they paid him. It's not like they have nothing invested in him.
right.
They have a future that they have invested in him that they might
Yep.
sit him for a little bit extra. You could see even, like a CMC, if he tries to come back, you could see some setback there.
Yep.
How do I want to put this? The athletic freak that he is, Cordero Patterson. We saw him get nicked up this week, a high ankle sprain. The possibility of 1 to 2 weeks, unless you're Cordero Patterson, who happened to practice today.
Oh, look at that.
To what extent, I'm not 100% sure. I saw it on Twitter, though, that he was at practice, and I believe practicing to some capability or to some capacity. So I highly doubt he plays this week. I guess it's out there that he could, but it's a Thursday night game against New England. I could see Cordell Patterson missing this week. But by the looks of it, if he's already practicing, he might just miss 1 week, and you might have him back. So it's a tough loss, but
he practiced in a limited fashion. So
I think with it being a Thursday game, there's no way he plays. I feel like personally, but next week I think you might see him. I think it might be a 1 week absent because you get that extra rest time in there. With the Thursday night game. Jared Goff has a strained oblique, considered week to week. Yeah, we're just gonna leave it at that because Well, I was all off season. I was trying to defend Jared Goff, saying, he could still be a super flex option, and then he's doing me dirty like this. Poor guy.
I mean, he is an option if you have like Kyler or something like that. So it's something that
any quarterback's an option.
No. If David Blow were to come in this week, I don't think I'm starting him. I think I'd rather play.
What if he's better?
Stop it.
What if he's better?
Stop.
Just saying. Ricky Seals-Jones, strained hip flexor, 2 tight ends down for the football team. However, you could see Logan Thomas return this week, so Ricky Seals may have just been disappearing anyways. Definitely something to monitor, though, in case they roll with like a 12 personnel. They get 2 tight ends involved, seeing as in no second receiver has really stepped up behind Terry McLaurin. Colt McCoy, pec strain. Status is up in the air for week 11. Ryan, do you think we see Kyler Murray in week 11?
If I was the coach of Arizona, which I'm obviously not, and Cliff Kingsbury is smarter than I am, I would say no because we're going into the bye next week. So I would not take the chance on starting him if he's not just completely healthy. And Kingsbury did come out and say that Murray's going to be close, and that McCoy would be available to play, or should be available to play. But if he has any setbacks or anything like that, and he has to be out, and Kyler's out, I would not like any Arizona players next week because it's Chris Streveler and Cole Mcdonald. Those are only 2 healthy options if those 2 guys can't go. And I personally have never heard of either one of those guys. So, Cole McDonald, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's a rookie out of Hawaii. Something like that. I think he was just drafted this year. I think the Titans drafted him and cut him.
Very well could be. But like I said, report from McCoy is that it's not serious and should be available if he's needed. But it is worth monitoring just to see if you do get Kyler back or if you're able to plug McCoy in a desperation play.
Could be a big James Conner week, though.
Could be.
Could be. Baker Mayfield, knee contusion, did not return. The injuries are adding up for Baker Mayfield. Yeah, I'm not sure what to make here. There's not much out there, I don't think, on Baker Mayfield at the moment, so something to monitor.
It's being reported that he should be fine. The reason why he didn't come back in because that game was just out of hand and the game wasn't really in doubt. So from the reports that I saw, it was if the game would have been closer, he would have came back in. So he should be fine for week 11.
Breaking news via Ryan. That's it, guys and gals. A short injury list this week, which is a good thing. Ryan, biggest surprise of week 10, aside from all of our fun NFL facts. How about fantasy surprise? What was your fantasy surprise of week 10?
For me, it's Ramondre Stevenson.
Who?
Ramondre Stevenson.
Who's that?
Ramondre Stevenson.
I know him.
Yeah,
I know him.
We may have talked about him on the live show a little bit on Sunday, just about a dozen times. And I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, both me and you did not expect him to fully be the workhorse, but ended up seeing 25 opportunities, 114 total yards, had 4 catches and 2 rushing touchdowns on top of that. I was shocked by that. I was shocked that he saw that many opportunities. I knew that if he did see that amount of opportunities that he would be a good option, but I just didn't expect that to be his workload. So obviously you're starting him against Atlanta this week if Deonte Harris were to miss. But Jeremy, my question to you is, do you think he now has standalone value if Harris were to be back this week and moving forward, or do you think he just kind of falls back to the wayside?
Personally, I think he falls back to the wayside. I saw a quote from Belichick basically saying that he did a really good job in the fill-in role and that Deonte Harris should be back or whatnot. Something to that extent. Basically not putting a ton of confidence in the fact that Ramondre Stevenson will have much of a role if Deonte Harris is back. I think he gets touches. I don't think he falls to like nothing. You can clearly see they like to use him in the passing game where they won't use Deonte Harris. So what I think this could do is the struggle is if his pass blocking gets good enough that he takes over the role that Brandon Bolden and James White were kind of playing. You could see him have standalone value. But it's going to be tough, and it's going to be tough not to start him next week because even if Harris is active because of what he did this week, you know what I mean? Like his performance was so good that it's hard to sit him even if Harris is active because what if Harris doesn't get a lot of touches or what if Harris fumbles and like it does turn into Ramondre Stevenson's backfield again and he does what he did this week. So it's going to be a tough situation going forward. I feel like as far as like fantasy advice, even giving it, taking it, using it, I think Ramondre Stevenson is going to get real murky just because of how well he played.
Yeah, I can see that. I personally might have to start him in a couple leagues, and I'm at the current moment I don't feel great about it because I just don't know what Deonte Harris is going to do. But Harris was playing really well before he got hurt, so I don't feel like he's – like Ramondre looked good, but I don't think he did enough to just completely supplant Deonte Harris. So – and I don't think he did enough to fully guarantee a A.J. Dillon style of impact on the game, you know what I mean? Like I just don't – the way they were using Deonte Harris and the way he looked before he got hurt, he was already in the doghouse once, so I just don't expect them to give him a decent amount of run once their main guy is back. So I'm probably not starting him if Deonte Harris were to play this week.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be dicey for me. I'll think about it. It's just tough because he was impressive, you know, and is that kudos to the offensive line in New England? Like, were they that much better? Do you know what I mean? Like, is it just because that offensive line is so good that he looked great? I don't know. He's just gonna be murky.
I mean, they did it against tough defense.
Yeah, that's for sure. I just think that offensive line they manhandled them.
That's very true.
No. That is true. All right. My biggest surprise is my double zeros from Mike Gesicki and TJ Hawkinson. That one hurt in a couple leagues. Definitely didn't see that coming. Hawkinson's been kind of just really meh. Started off kind of hot and just whole Lions outside of DeAndre Swift are just
gross.
So I don't know if it's really that big of a surprise, but a goose egg, I didn't see that coming. Yeah, Russell Gage, another one. Can't trust him.
Well, I'm pretty
not
sure.
Going back.
Did Hawkinson only see one target?
Could be.
Is that what I saw?
Don't know. All I know is the Lions are ruining him. Jared Goff is really peeving me off, and just I just don't want to talk about it anymore. That's all. I just wanted to get it out there, Goose eggs. Goose eggs from tight ends. Goose eggs from tight ends. Cheers.
Gesicki at least saw 7 targets. Hawkinson saw 1.
I'm going to take the 0 targets and say that that's better because the 7 targets, he should have caught a ball. All right.
Yeah, it was gross. So I hear you.
Anyways, week 11. Let's look forward because I'm done talking about week 10. It's just meh. At least the Bills won. Anyways, week 11, Ryan. We know everybody's going to be out there. They're going to try and get A.J. Dillon if he's unrostered. Highly unlikely, but there's a chance in your league A.J. Dillon is not rostered. Obviously a must-add. However, the waiver wire is starting to get bleak, Ryan. It's bleak. There's not much out there. There's not. Is there a diamond in the rough sitting on a majority of these waiver wires who you think we should target? Lead us off.
I don't know if there's a diamond in the rough, but at this point,
is he a sapphire?
I'm thinking more of like
an onyx,
cubic zirconia somewhere.
Yeah, still holds value. Still holds value. I like
but
it.
Just guys that could see added opportunity moving forward. Number one for me, and not even in this order, but just one guy for me that I'm adding or going to try to add anyways, is Deante Foreman. Saw a team high 11 carries this week, despite only playing 35% of snaps. Debatably looked the best of the trio that they currently have working in there, and he's probably the cheapest option you're going to get in terms of running backs because of that timeshare. So he's a guy that you probably don't have to spend much of any fab on. Might even be able to add him as a free ad if you need a running back.
Free.
Very, very well could be. Just saying. If you want to take the gamble on other guys that are...
He ain't going to be free.
You don't think so?
I'm going to tell you why he ain't free. I saw and got my ESPN notification that Matthew Berry and Mr. Yates agrees with you and me.
Oh, no. Never mind. He's not going to be free. He's still...
However, if you were on the insiders of the Fantasy Football Playmakers and you watched our show on Sunday, you already have him.
That's true.
Continue, Ryan.
That's very true. But he's going to be cheaper than... I guarantee people are going to spend more money on Ramondre. I guarantee 1,000% that people are going to spend more money on A.J. Dillon, who, by the way, is only rostered in 69% of sleeper redraft leagues. So...
A.J. Dillon?
Yes.
Wow. He's
very well,
more than I thought.
Very well could be out there for waivers, so I would definitely be checking.
How much is Ramondre? Did you check?
Ramondre?
Yeah.
He is owned in...
He didn't show up in the AMI.
41%.
Wow.
But he is also the number 5 most trended player on Sleeper right now for redraft. So with
Keeps going
Deante
for him.
Foreman being number 1.
Deante Foreman's number 1.
Deante Foreman is number 1. He has been added to 428,000 rosters.
The power of Matthew Barry at ESPN.
Yeah, he doesn't hold that much weight.
However, I do agree with you and our ESPN folk that we speak of. I said it on Sunday. He was a guy that I thought could possibly take over that lead role. He just has the size at 6'1", 236 pounds. He's very similar to that of the stature of Derrick Henry. And I just feel like he's 25 off an Achilles injury. Got a little bit more spunk than the 36-year-old legend in Adrian Peterson at this time in their career. And I think he showed it. He looked pretty explosive in the limited touches, like you said, Ryan. However, the tough thing for me with Deante Foreman is going to be there is still 3 backs. So I worry spending fab on him. I mean, obviously, if you really need running back help, he's a guy to target. But their playoff schedule is Jacksonville, Pittsburgh, San Francisco, Miami. So if you're adding a guy now, you're kind of hoping for a decent playoff schedule / couple weeks leading in. And right now, as they stand in points allowed to running backs, Jacksonville's 17th, Pittsburgh's 5th, San Francisco's 19th, and Miami's 18th. So not at any point do they face a bottom 10 defense. So they face a pretty tough schedule going out for fantasy-wise for points given up to running backs. Mm-hmm. So I mean, if you need a running back, yeah, he's probably one of your better options. Like you said, Ryan, he might be cheaper if you're in a league that has Dylan or Ramondre Stevenson or somebody. And Deante Foreman probably has a longer shelf life than these other guys as far as like a full volume, but I just don't know if I trust it. You know what I mean? Like there's some doubt there for me to like dump a ton of fab on him, you know?
Oh yeah, but you're going to, at this point in the season, you're going to have that with literally everybody. I mean,
yeah. I mean, and how many more weeks are you going to go that you're going to see another guy really pop up? You know, right. I mean, there are going to be injuries, but you know, how many times are you going to like get a lead back again? You know what I mean? If he gets that role, but
right. And this should also be the time where you're adding, like, if they're still available, you should be adding a lot of handcuff guys if you have the roster space to do so, like Alexander Madison or just any of these guys that you have seen perform when their main guy goes down. If there's, or even Khalil Herbert, if somebody dropped him, they have one of the easier schedules coming up, especially in the playoffs. Again, if David Montgomery were to suffer an injury, he would immediately jump back into that RB2 discussion with it, especially with that easy schedule coming up. So I know I'm practicing that in my leagues. I'm dropping some wide receivers that aren't going to play in my lineup for the most part, or any just extra pieces that I had before. So it's just kind of right now the waiver wire is just so bare because a lot of these guys are just 1 week rentals or guys that are in committees like Deante Foreman is, and you don't really have the super high upside, but you're just kind of looking for any sort of volume whatsoever to kind of get you through until you get your main guys back.
I like it. I'm going to hit you guys with a little bit deeper one. This is strictly a playoff forecast. This guy could become nothing, but you're going to get him for free. I highly doubt anybody puts a waiver claim in for him, like $1 if you really want to make sure. But a guy that I kind of like possibly moving forward, this guy could be a sleeper, is Keelan Cole, wide receiver for the Jets. He's only rostered in 2.5% of sleeper leagues. The last 3 weeks, he's seen 5, 8, and 5 targets. This week didn't turn out to be much, as he only caught one of those targets against a real tough Bills defense. Elijah Moore's kind of come on. Corey Davis is kind of back and somewhat healthy, so there's a lot of crowdedness in that room. However, their playoff schedule is amazing for points allowed to wide receivers as they get New Orleans, Miami, Jacksonville, and Tampa Bay. Surprisingly, New Orleans is 26th in the NFL, the points allowed to wide receivers, even with their stout corners and safeties. Miami is 30th, Jacksonville is 25th, and Tampa Bay is 22nd. Now, these are on season long, so some of these teams have been playing a little better lately. But either way, at the moment, the way it looks, Keelan Cole has a pretty easy schedule on the way out and is seeing a decent target share the last couple weeks as a deep sleeper type guy that could possibly pay dividends at the back half of the season. So that's kind of where I'm looking. I just figure a lot of these guys are going after Deante Foreman's or Dillon's. If you're set at running back, this could be a guy that if you have an open roster spot or you want to flip out a guy that just got injured or something like that, Keelan Cole could be an option in your deeper leagues.
Right. I like it. He saw 8 targets last week in week 9 against Indianapolis, when Corey Davis was out. So, I mean, Elijah Moore seems to have really stepped up into that wide receiver 2 role for them. But at the beginning of the year, we didn't really see much of anything from him, and it was Keelan Cole who was playing a lot of snaps and seemed to get more targets than Elijah Moore did. So,
yeah, I mean,
Elijah Moore's fully supplanted him. It's one of those things where, like you said, softer matchups going into the playoffs. They're probably going to be playing from behind a ton in those games. So, I mean, garbage time touchdowns are a thing. So,
yeah, who knows?
One of those guys.
He's a big play machine too. So it's like, I mean, I think he had 3 or 4 points last week off of 1 catch. So,
he had 1 catch for 18 yards last week.
All right, whatever. So it was 3 points in PPR.
2.8.
2.8. Okay, whatever, Ryan. I'm rounding up.
Get your facts right.
Okay, sorry. Speaking of which, I saw a sleeper head in my league. Deante Foreman scored 10.05 points. How did he score 0.05? A half a yard? They give him like a half a yard?
0.05. I don't know. Let me see here real quick.
Because then the stats didn't really add up either.
I don't know. Maybe it's odd scoring because he scored 9.8 in my 1 PPR league.
Yeah. I don't know how. Either way, the one league I was looking at said 10.085. I thought that was interesting.
10.085.
Yeah. So it says he had 11 attempts for 30 carries or 30 yards, 2 receptions for 48 yards.
Okay, so 3, 5, 9.8. You get point or decimal scoring for carries?
I didn't think so. That'd be news to me.
Maybe you should check that out.
Maybe I should. It's one of my home dynasty leagues. I'm gonna check it. I'm gonna check it while you talk about your next guy.
All right.
Because now I'm curious.
So my next guy is Wayne Gallman, which sounds gross, but Jeremy, he was a guy that we had mentioned at the beginning of the year after he had been added to that roster as a guy that you probably should at least add back then, and he hasn't really done much of anything at all. He was a healthy scratch before. Has only seen a season high of 13 snaps or 13% of snap share for the year. That was his high before last week. And last week, after Cordero Patterson left, he ended up leading the team in rushing yards and played more snaps than Mike Davis, who seems to have just completely vanished. Like I said, he was a guy that a lot of people added shortly after he was added to the Falcons roster. And although it's a tough matchup, if Patterson were to miss, he still should see a decent amount of volume, especially with how Matt Ryan likes to be utilizing his running backs in the passing game. So, like I said, 1 week rental. If Patterson were to miss, he's a guy that you could add. He might even be a free add. But with it being a short turnaround for them and Patterson with that injury, I wouldn't expect him to play, like you had said, Jeremy. So he's a guy that I'm just kind of keeping an eye on to see what comes of it. I put a waiver claim in for him in a deeper league, in a couple of deeper leagues actually, and deeper dynasty leagues. So he's worth a shot in case he does play and you need the running back help. So
I somewhatly like it. I don't know. They don't get points per carry. Nothing there would add up to 0.05, so I have no idea. I don't hate it. Wayne Goldman. Let's put it this way. I like Wayne Goldman's playoff schedule against. Not really. I don't like his playoff schedule either. Never mind, I lied. Wayne Goldman to me is just kind of like a deeper league if you really need somebody to fill in this week. Say you have Cordero Patterson and you have no other running back option. Might be worth it. I just still feel like with Mike Davis there, and by the looks of it, Cordero Patterson's not going to miss more than a week at this moment. He's worth some fab, but I'm not going to go crazy on him. Especially playing New England, I don't expect much out of out of Atlanta this week. I could be wrong. I really hope Atlanta beats them because I'm starting to get a little nervous as a Bills fan. But either way, we'll keep that to ourselves.
We gotta play them twice to round out the year.
Yeah, don't remind me. But yeah, I don't hate Wayne Goldman. Again, I just feel like this waiver wire's meh.
It really is. It's.
I'm not really looking to go out and get many of these guys.
No.
I just feel like my roster's too deep in regular redraft, and then dynasty. Most of these guys are already rostered. So,
even if they're not, they don't carry any long-term value.
Mm-hmm.
Deante Foreman is the only guy of the two that I've mentioned so far that's going to carry, and that could carry any long-term value if he were to strike to end the year and he were to sign elsewhere. But
I think Wayne Goldman could still maybe hold some. I mean, he's a little bit more up there in age, but he could be a guy that signs somewhere. He's only on a 1-year deal in Atlanta, so he could find some viability again somewhere. It'd be
but the fact that he wasn't able to take the field over from Mike Davis the way he's looked is kind of concerning.
It's Atlanta who is giving touch. Nothing against Cordero Patterson, who was balling out. Very good. He's been playing very well. Understandable. But they were giving touches to Cordero Patterson over Calvin Ridley, Kyle Pitts, you name it.
Hey, at least they're winning games doing it.
I know. I'm just saying, though. You know what I mean?
The sarcasm.
We don't know how bad Wayne Goldman is. Wayne Goldman looked good on the Giants. Okay. Of course, Devontae Booker looked pretty good, too. So maybe the Giants just have a better offensive line than we think.
Maybe Saquon Barkley's just washed, playing like garbage.
Maybe Saquon Barkley's just a system running back. What?
Taking it to Twitter. I'm taking it to Twitter right now.
I've seen people put that on Twitter. There's jokes because of how good Devontae Booker was looking.
He's a system back.
Good times, good times.
Ugh.
Another deep guy for me was a guy that I recommended to some people and had it in my yards per start sit article. Was a guy I kind of liked this week. He helped me look somewhatly smart in some leagues. Deonte Harris, New Orleans. Last 3 weeks, he's had 7, 8, and 4 targets. He has taken that for 3, 6, and 3 receptions for 35, 52, and 84 yards. In turn, turning those into PPR leagues of 15.8, 19.2, 17.1. So depending on your scoring, it might be slightly different. But Deante Harris has been a pretty key factor in that offense with Trevor Siemian at the helm. And it seems like we might see Trevor Siemian for the entire year at this point. Aside from him kind of tanking where Taysom Hill takes over. But he's looked pretty good, pretty solid at the helm there. So I kind of like him. Going forward, he has a pretty soft playoff schedule too with the Jets, Tampa Bay, Miami, and Carolina being probably the hardest. But he's a guy in a little bit of a deeper league or something like that, or a league, medium-sized league, 12 14-team league that a lot of these bigger guys are taken. And if you need receiver help or flex position help, Deonte Harris, I think, could be a nice piece to plug in at times, especially in these bye weeks, especially in week 14. He draws the Jets. That could be a good matchup for him, especially if you're missing like a guy like Devontae Adams, who you'll miss in week 14, or no, Adams is 13, isn't he? Who's week 14? Oh, AJ Brown's week 14.
Yeah.
If you're rostering anybody like that, Deonte Harris might be a good guy to grab now ahead of time. Yeah, so you're going to be missing. You might be missing Michael Pittman, T.Y. Hilton, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Parker, Jacoby Myers, Nelson Aguilar, Devontae Smith. Those are all guys that you're going to be missing in week 14. So if you need someone to fill into those spots, Deonte Harris could be a good fill-in. And then, like I said, the playoffs aren't too bad. He's seeing an increased workload. So, and he's explosive. He's a nice little speedy receiver that just looks solid. He's doing well. And like I said, with Trevor Siemian, he's had a good rapport. So
you're not worried at all about Traquan Smith or Marquez Callaway?
He's done that with those two.
Being ahead of them. And yeah, but Traquan is just really kind of coming into his own.
The guy's like 40.
I don't know if he's 25.
Well, he seems like he's 40.
He saw 7 targets last week, and he should have had another touchdown. I don't know if you saw that catch that he had.
No.
It was really not a catch because he was out of bounds, but that catch was gross.
I'm not saying that. I mean, those two might have more fantasy viability, but Deonte Harris has had some. You know what I mean? The totals are there. I mean, he's seeing enough targets to be viable as a flex play. That's all I'm saying. I don't think he's going to take over the lead, but as this fantasy season's been, I feel like there could be leagues, especially if I feel like it might be a little bit more dynasty deeper. You're in a 14-team league, a 16, a 35 like Ryan.
32.
It might be somebody who's available or somebody to keep an eye on that could definitely possibly be something in the playoffs. That's all I'm saying.
So, pop quiz real quick for you.
I failed.
What roster percentage does Deonte Harris have right now?
Redraft or fantasy?
Redraft or fantasy?
Or dynasty, sorry.
Wow. In either one. Either one is fine.
The one that I saw on Sleeper was 11.6.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I'm looking it up right now, and usually it differentiates between redraft and dynasty, but it doesn't seem to be doing that right now.
Because he's that good.
But just saying, Traquan Smith is only rostered in 11%.
Yeah, they're probably the same. I'm sure most Saints receivers are.
But I'm just kind of first of all, there's no way that those two guys are both rostered in the same amount of leagues, both redraft and dynasty. So I don't know what exactly they're rostered in dynasty. But for me, if I'm looking at a Saints wide receiver, I would rather go with a guy like Traquan Smith, who has touchdown upside and has just a big playability. Because Harris is only seen in the field really when there's 3 wide receivers on the field. It's Callaway and Traquan that are playing the 2 outside positions when they go just 2 wide receivers. That's all I'm saying. I like the ad. I like the ad when in terms of depth pieces. But if they're rostered in the same amount of leagues,
fair. Go get Traquan Smith. We'll see. All right, mark it down. We'll see. Traquan Smith. I'm gonna write down right here right now.
All right.
Traquan. I'm not supposed to name. Smith v. Deonte Harris.
All right.
We'll see who has the most fantasy points by week 17.
What are we wagering on?
PPR. I don't know. I haven't decided yet.
Oh, come on. All right.
We'll donate it to something.
All right.
Okay. All right, Ryan. Now that you made me spend money on something that I'll probably lose because, that's how my fantasy season's going. I'm sorry, Deonte Harris. I just cursed you. But that's her. That's the cream de crop. Ryan, why don't you let everybody who is listening or watching know where they can find you and if you have any fun stuff coming out soon?
You can find me on Twitter at Mackie_FFB. As always, you can send any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions to me over there. I was working on that article for biggest disappointments, but I feel like it is a waste of my time because I feel like everybody has been disappointing to an extent this year outside of Cooper Kupp and Deebo Samuel. So I kind of scrapped that project, to be completely honest with you. So I'm just kind of thinking of other things that I can be working on. But for the time being, like I said, find me on Twitter at Mackie_FFB. Questions, comments, concerns, anything like that is all much appreciated.
Reach out. Ryan's nice. He's friendly.
I can
bite.
All
right, Ryan. Okay. Relax. Right, relax. Down, boy. Down. Anyways, you can find me on Twitter at PopesFFH. Any articles and written work is at yardsperfantasy.com and the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Shoot over there. The Sports Gambling Podcast Network, I have some rankings, stuff like that. Got a lot of stuff over there. Yards Per is a weekly start sit article, usually drops Thursdays. And like Ryan, any questions, comments, concerns, hate mail, sure, send it over. Why not?
Anything.
DMs are open. Probably won't answer the hate mail, but if you'd like, send it. Sure, why not?
Send you hate mail right now.
I feel like until I get the hate mail, I haven't really made it. So
that's very true.
So
very
with
true.
That on the horizon, hopefully, till Sunday, take care. Best lucks in your waiver bids.